Well, hi, Hook. Is this your favorite spot for sleeping? Hmm? Is that your favorite spot for sleeping? Yes, it is. So, my jars are clean. My lids have been washed in hot soapy water. Now, you don't reuse these if you're gonna reuse them, you can reuse them to store like dry goods, but otherwise these are not meant for more than one use. And I like the wide mouth jars, although for bone broth you can do the narrow ones, but I prefer the wide mouth jars just because I can be consistent. With things like green beans, it's going to be easier getting everything in there. So I have a stainless steel ladle that I use for this. Alright, so I just ladle the broth in here, and I'm going to put this over here, and then I get it till it's about up to this part here on the jar, and then I stop. Once I get it all ladled in, I'll clean the tops of the jar with some vinegar on a paper towel, and then I will put the lids on and screw on. These have been washed as well. Screw on this, and I get it like a light tight, not loose, but not like I'm not wringing down hard on it. So another thing is if you let your bone broth cool, you'll see that on the top of it you'll see a little bit of fat trying to harden up a little bit. So if you wanted to make a lower fat content in your bone broth, you could get rid of that, but I wouldn't do that because that's your flavor, and so that's why I don't do that. Anyway, let me start getting these things jarred up so we can start moving forward. So it's still warm, it's just not piping hot. I'm going to actually switch gears with this ladle. I'm not going to use it. I'm going to use the one that I use for scooping out the bone broth, which is right here, because it'll go faster and you'll still get all the ideas. Now I have plastic stuff to do this with, but I prefer the stainless steel. It's just a preference, but not necessary. To take the broth off the top in case there's any other items of sediment, they can settle at the bottom of the broth. Even though we strained it really well, I still like a clean, clear bone. This broth is amazing, so if you're not feeling good, warming yourself up a cup of broth is amazing. All soups, rices, and stuff like that, phenomenal. The depth of flavor is great. It's a real quick, not complicated, fairly low cost bone broth. You get all your collagen, garlic, your onion, your complex flavors. It's fantastic bone broth. I always get nervous when I'm doing something for the first time, like making something, like I'm gonna waste something all the way. But I think we need to give ourselves, or maybe I'm the only one that does that, but I don't think so, give ourselves grace to fail forward. you know, to allow ourselves to make mistakes and not put so much pressure on ourselves to be perfectionists. I am a little bit of a perfectionist. If you would ask Edward, he would tell you so. So I like taking the jar that's furthest away so I don't have to ladle across my clean area. So clean, clean, clean. Everything just needs to be clean. So I'm just going to finish this up here, and then we will turn on the canner and start canning the bone broth, and then we will So when I have a very little bit of broth left, I usually just cup it up and you can drink it, or I'll put it in maybe some of the pig's food, turn the broth into bacon, you know, depends on what's going on, but beautiful broth, beautiful jarring. Wash that. Alright. So now I take some paper towel and I gotta get vinegar. Alright. So just a distilled white vinegar works. And I just put it on my paper towel like that. And only the jars that I'm gonna can, I just go around the top. You get any fat or residue, which there shouldn't be much because we use that stainless steel thing. We didn't overflow any or get them too full, so it should be fairly easy to jar up, and I'm very confident that we'll have a good seal. Right, then I just take the lids that we just washed. They're brand new, and I don't like the looks of that one, but that one. I don't like the looks of that one just because of this on the side. I don't know if you can see that, but it's like this rubber mix that they use on the seal. It's probably fine, but I'm not going to risk it, so I'm going to push it off to the side. Last lid on. Alright. I'm going to take this and just tighten on my lids. So this is just barely finger tight, and I just do one turn after. So I do finger tight and then one turn. It's not too tight, but it holds the lid down enough to seal. Oops. But doesn't be too tight, right? So it's finger tight and then a half turn. So these are quite warm still compared to my other ones that are in the refrigerator. So I had to do this. I only had 2 jars left of the bone broth that I canned in December. So I needed to make more. I'm hoping to do better this year with my canning. I feel a little bit more confident, and I've dialed in some finickiness of my stove, which is my burners, which is helpful. All right. These other cans that you're seeing right here, these are, I did the bone broth yesterday and I put these in the refrigerator. They're a different color because they're cold, and they've gelled up from the, I don't know if you can tell, but it's kind of jelly and thick, and and that's from the bone marrow and collagen. So that's what makes bone broth so amazing. So these will, if I had put these ones in the refrigerator, they would have turned out like that. There's a little bit of fat on the top, but good for me. And it was the last of my narrow mouth jars that I could put in, just because I ran out of those lids, so I'm using the wide mouth for the broth now. I'm gonna go get my canner, put some water in it, and go through and start canning. This will be, let's see, 2, 6. This will be probably 2 loads, so a few hours of canning. Okay, so like my reading glasses, yes. Okay, so I have my canner out, and this is my canner. It only does like maybe 5 jars at a time, so I've got 12 jars, so I probably have a couple canning, 2 sites, things to go through. So I start with cold water, and I'm going to start with my cold jars in the refrigerator, and this burner brings it up to boil. You don't need a lot of water in your canner, so I just go by rule of thumb. This basket sits on top of a metal thing at the bottom of the pot to keep your jars from direct contact with the metal and the burner. That way when it's really high pressure and boiling, your jars will be better protected. Then I fill the water line up just to the top of the basket, because that's really all you need, and that's what I use as my thing. And then I go ahead and I take my distilled vinegar and I put a splash of that in the water. And the reason why I do that is because it prevents this, like, it's like a steam stain that can happen on the outside of your jars, and I don't like that. The vinegar prevents that from happening, that's all. You don't have to do it, it just prevents it from happening. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my jars in. And I always try to, I need a bigger canner, I've determined, but you know what? You use what you got, use it up, wear it out, do with or do without. So we got 4, I think we can only do 5, because I don't think that it's big enough for me to get jars in the middle. So I just space them out a little bit there. And then we grab the lid. So there's this seal right here that comes out, and this has been thoroughly washed and dried, and this is something that you need to do when you're done canning. You need to make sure that you really clean your equipment really, really well. This is what allows the steam buildup to take place on your machine. Okay, so put this in. Go there. So I got it, and then I'm going to turn it so it's like this. All right. So then, my canner, I'll put this on after the steam has been coming out for like 10 minutes. Once the steam is a steady steam coming out for 10 minutes, then I drop the weight on. Okay, when I drop the weight on, there's this button back here that will pop up, and that means that it's pressurized and you don't want to take the lid off. Then I'm going to bring this needle up to 10 and try and keep it around this range for my bone broth, and I'll do that for 45 minutes because it's meat. So I'll have to consult my notes, but I think that that's right, and which I'll do. Now my stove is broken. I need a new one, but I can't afford one right now, so I'll have to wait. But so I have to manually light this. This burner is my boiling burner. It quickly brings the temperature up. But then after the temperature comes up, right, to where it's building up pressure, then I move it over to this burner, which allows me to control the temperature and keep it around that gauge with the dial really, really low. And there's like this sweet spot. and so that it can hold at that temperature or that pressure for a certain amount of time. If you go under the 10 pounds of pressure, that's what that is right there, 10 pounds of pressure. If you go under that, you need to go for a longer period of time. If you go over that too long or too much pressure, it could cause damage to your seal, and your product may not set correctly. So it's really good to try and learn, do a few batches of canning different things to learn your own stove and canner, and just learn how to do that, and then go ahead and produce your or go ahead and start canning. So let me go ahead and get this started, and then I'll probably turn the camera off so that you don't have to watch it go for 10 minutes. Take this off, put it to the side, and I'll turn it on high, and we'll get going on the process of canning. Okay, I don't know if you can see the steam coming out, but it's a steady stream of steam. We're going to let that do that for 10 minutes, and then we will put this weight on where the steam's coming out, and then once the gauge gets up to 10, don't touch that, it's hot, 10 pounds of pressure right there, then we will start the timer for 45 minutes, I believe. I still have to consult my book, but you know, we have a little bit of time still. So we're going to go ahead and start the timer. Timer 10 minutes. Start. So in 10 minutes, that timer will go out, and I will go ahead and attach the weight. Okay, so I was wrong. So you can it at 10 pounds of pressure for 25 minutes for quarts, 20 minutes for pints. I'm doing quart jars, so I'm going to do it 25 minutes at 10 pounds of pressure, and then I'm going to naturally let the canner decompress on its own. We have about 7 minutes left, 7.5 minutes left. Anyway. Okay, so my timer just went off, so I'm taking the weight, and I'm just going to put it right over the top. And pretty soon the dial right there will start moving up, and once it gets almost to 10, we'll turn the burner off, move it over to this other side like I was stating, and we will set the temperature to where it best regulates, and we will do can at quart jars for 25 minutes at 10 pounds of pressure. And then we'll let it naturally come out of that. Okay, so my gauge is just about 6, almost 7, and it's about 6, 5.5, 6. And I'm going to move it over so that I can start regulating the temperature. It's super hot, so what I do is I turn on, I just grab the pot and I move it over, and then I turn the temperature. Okay. So this now is on this side of the burner, and we are, let's see if I can get the dial here to show you. So here's my dial. Right now I have it on 6. Normally I'm like right in that spot between a 0 and low, or 2 and low. But right now we're still needing to climb. We're almost there. We're almost at our temperature. So you can see that We are right there, and we need to be at 10 before I can set the timer. So we're just about there. So I'm probably going to go ahead and turn off the camera so that I don't waste a lot of your guys' time. But once it gets up to 10 pounds of pressure, I'll set my burner to regulate that, and then I'll set the timer for 25 minutes. And once the timer goes off, I'll let the canner depressurize on its own. And then when I take the lid off, I'll grab the camera again and show you guys what's going on. Hopefully, fingers crossed, nothing broke, everything seals, because whatever doesn't seal good and whatever breaks, clearly we won't be using. Alright. Okay, my timer just went off, so I turned off the beeper and I've turned off the oven. Now I'm just going to let this come down all on its own. And I will not open it up until this button here drops by itself. When that button drops, then the pressure is gone down and it's safe to open up the canner. Whatever you do, do not ever open up your canner lid or force that button down to open up your canner lid, because you could end up severely burned. So that's your safety to keep from getting burned. Anyway, that's how I make or can my bone broth, not how I make it. I'll do a video on how I make my bone broth the next time I make a batch so that you guys can see it. Tomorrow, I'm going to be canning green beans. No idea how many green beans I will end up having to can, but I'll be canning them tomorrow. And then the next thing after that to can will be potatoes. The little bit of potatoes I did get in my garden, I want to can them. I have not canned potatoes before. I want to try a dry packing canning potatoes. I don't even know how to wet pack potatoes, let alone dry pack. But from what I've heard is you can melt like butter and let all of the solids fall down, and so then you end up with ghee. And then you can add the ghee in with your potatoes and dry pack them and can them, and that way they have a different texture, more of like a baked potato texture versus a canned potato texture, whatever that is. Well, hi, Hook. Is this your favorite spot for sleeping? Hmm? Is that your favorite spot for sleeping? Yes, it is. Alright, so the canner has stopped, the pressure has released, and so I need to pull the jars out and place them on a towel on the counter, and they need to sit there and completely cool down before we label the top and put them away. But I thought I'd show you how I do that. So it's now 7:25. It takes about 30 minutes or so to get to where I can take the lid off. There's no steam coming out. This is still very, very hot, and I've removed the weight. Just a second. All right, sorry about that. So I took this off the top of the canner, and it's still very, very warm, but there's no more steam coming out, and the back button has dropped down, so it's flush. As you can tell right there, it's flush with the lid. So it is now ready. So I'll go ahead and, so what I do is I turn it first to disconnect, and then when I pull it off, I pull the lid so that the steam is on the back side of the lid, and I lift it up and I turn it this way. Okay, and now I'm protected. I protected my face, my hands, and my body away from steam. Alright, so that lid is very, very hot, it looks like everything is intact. Here, I'll let you see down in there. Probably everything looks really good. So I'm gonna get the grabber. I don't even know what it's called, but it grabs the jars out of the canner. Okay, so this is it here. And I just reach in very carefully, grab, lift out, and put down on the counter. I don't know if you can see it there. And so slowly, these lids will start popping. Woo, that's careful. Ooh, so nerve-wracking. Slowly, the lids will start popping, and as they're popping, they'll start sealing. I'm gonna go ahead and dump this water out. Did you hear that? That's one sealing up, so that's a good sign. So I'm gonna pull the pot, dump the water out, put some cold water in, and do the next round. Okay, I think we have 2 jars that are not sealing. I don't want to touch them, they're going to be so hot. That one did. That one did actually. That one hasn't. That one hasn't. That one hasn't. So these 2 actually have. It's these 3 that have not. Interesting. We'll see how that happens, so, and how it goes. So I've added fresh cold water to my canner. Like I did, I'm going to do another round of the canning, and I'm going to add the vinegar like I did last time. I'm going to go ahead and can this one. So remember how these jars were this color? Now look at them. Isn't that amazing? Unbelievable. Anyway, I'll go ahead and put in the 5 jars that we're going to can. Like so. Go ahead and twist it closed, and remember, we are going to let there be a steady stream of steam for 10 minutes, and then we will start our timer. I'm going to go ahead and light my burner, turn it high, and get it going. Anyway, it's not that bad of a process. Quite easy, actually. I was very intimidated learning how to can bone broth. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and till tomorrow when we can our green beans. Alrighty, bye.